Well, it's East Anglian Derby week. We're counting down the days to Norwich City v Ipswich Town at Carrow Road, second East Anglian Derby of the season. And with Dave Freezer, Eastern Daily Press Pinken, Stuart Watson, East Anglian Daily Times, and Dave, all the omens are with Norwich, aren't they, going into this one? Look at the history books, you don't see a lot of blue on there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Norwich go into it confident, don't they? 9 games unbeaten, 6 of them were wins, and of course the playoff games of 2015. Norwich fans are never going to forget them, are they? So I think that's probably the same in the dressing room as well. They must talk about this sort of recent dominance. So yeah, confidence is high, but as every game that run continues, Norwich fans start saying, well, it's got to end at some point, hasn't it?
What do you think Ipswich fans think, Stu? They're not going to forget those derby games in the playoffs either. They're not going away.
No, and I think there's probably a sense that, you know, an impending sense of dread going into these games because of the history now, 9 games as you've mentioned. I don't think the weekend just gone has certainly helped in terms of the mood. Norwich have backed up a decent run with a good away point at high-flying Derby. Ipswich have once again missed out on a golden chance to build some sort of positive momentum by falling completely flat in a 0-0 home draw with Burton. So I think the weekend just gone has gone a long way to shaping how these two teams will feel going into the weekend.
I think Ipswich fans, from the Ipswich point of view, probably feel it's all quite ominous going into these games. It's 10 years since, more than 10 years since they've won at Carrow Road. Many won't have ever seen one.
Yeah, ominous is the word really, but law of averages and all that, and I'm sure, you know, Dave's just touched upon it. Norwich fans will maybe in the back of their minds be thinking, This has to end at some point. And you know, we're talking a lot about history now in these fixtures over 10 years. Does it really count for that much when it comes down to it in terms of, you know, a result from 8-9 years ago? It's completely different managers, different players. So I actually think in terms of the gap between the two sides in general is probably as close as it's been for a long time. If you go back to the playoff season, I thought, you know, there was a clear gap in class there, and I think most people thought that, you know, that Norwich were going to come out on top over those two legs. Now I don't think there's a huge amount between them, and the table backs that up, level on points at the moment, and the reverse fixture at Portman Road wasn't a huge amount in that either. So for me, it's going to be another tight game, I think.
Dave, plenty of new players in the Norwich squad this season, many from Germany. Do you think they've bought into the East Anglian Derby? Do they know what this means to the fans at this coming weekend?
Well, Daniel Farker certainly enjoyed the first one. There were some nice photos of him celebrating with some of Norwich's disabled supporters down the front after the game, and all the players going across to that away section at Portman Road, and of course the fans had a bit of fun. They don't seem to block off that roof at Portman Road very well, do they? Some people always seem to get on top of there. So yeah, I think as soon as you come into the club, it's something that people start talking about, and Daniel is certainly fully aware of it. You've got 3 new lads in Moritz Leitner, Onel Hernandez and Dennis Strabani, who have all got to sort of pick up speed on it quite quickly. But you know, within 30 seconds of kick-off, but even before kick-off, I think you know that intensity, don't you? And I think from the head coach's point of view, as it is with Norwich, you have to treat it in the same way as any championship game, in that if you go into it being overconfident, you're going to fall flat on your face, because that's the championship for you, isn't it? If you go into a game and you think, oh, Norwich always beat Ipswich, then you'll fall flat on your face. If Norwich don't play at 100% on top of their game, then Ipswich can cause an upset.
A lot of talk about Mick McCarthy's future at the moment, Stu, but he doesn't have an East Anglian Derby win on his record. He'll want one of those regardless of what he does.
He
in
doesn't.
The summer.
No, and we quizzed him about that going into the last game, and he bizarrely sort of said, haven't I? I've not even thought about it, and it was almost was at pains to say, but you know, that's just another little thing that's hanging over Mick, the fact that he's never been able to get a result in these fixtures, along with the FA Cup results and all the rest of it.
Did he take a sip from his cup of tea as he said it?
There's normally
haven't I?
He normally sort of throttles his water bottle, doesn't he? Is normally his defence mechanism in press conferences, but yeah, you know, it's another thing hanging over Mick without doubt, and it's something that he'll want to get off of his back for sure.
Dave, we're in Norwich now filming this. When does this city start to feel like the derby's coming?
I think it's already started, yeah. I mean, they played Derby last weekend, so obviously from a headline writer's point of view, there was a nice easy link there for us, for our stories in this morning's Pinken. But yeah, I think it's something that people have been eagerly looking forward to, because as Stu says, they went to Derby on Saturday. It was a difficult game, but they got a point out of it. And the other side of the game on Sunday, they go to Wolves on Wednesday night, which is a very difficult game against the runaway leaders, but also a reunion with John Ruddy and Ryan Bennett, who left the club after being here for sort of 5 years plus in the summer. So that's a big one on the horizon, and then they've got a more favourable run of fixtures. So I think beyond just the hype of Derby Day, Norwich fans are seeing this as one that if you can win it, make it 4 points from this 3 difficult games, then there is just that tiny possibility of a playoff push. But you know, if it were to go wrong against Ipswich and Wolves, then clearly you can forget about the top 6.
Stuart, for Ipswich fans, the top 6 is obviously a fair way off, but a Derby win would put a bit of gloss on a season that's threatening to get away from the Blues.
It's interesting, isn't it? You know, they're on exactly the same points in the table, and yet Dave here's talking about an outside slim chance of putting a run together and getting in there, and Ipswich fans have virtually given up on the season now and talking about a series of dead rubbers and very much looking to the long-term future. So that kind of sums up the mood of the two clubs at the minute, and we're kind of forgetting that they are on the same number of points, and Ipswich actually lead in a number of the stats really in terms of the goals scored and a few of other things like that. But current form is big going into these games, and Norwich are the ones with it. But you know, as Dave kept reminding me earlier, from an outsider looking in on Ipswich, they've only lost 1 of their last 5. Not conceding that many goals. That was 1-0 to Wolves, and that was a reasonable performance. So from the outside looking in, people maybe are scratching their heads at the doom and gloom surrounding Ipswich at the moment, but it's as we know, it's the product of a much longer, 16, likely to be 17 years in the Championship. The Derby defeats, lots of other different things have all kind of added up to this overriding sense of apathy at the moment. So a defeat on Sunday against the nearest and not so dearest would be another sort of nail in the coffin of that.
Brilliant, thank you gents, we'll leave that one there, but we've done 2 other videos looking ahead to this weekend's game on the key battles and sort of the mood around the 2 teams heading into the game, so you can catch those on our YouTube channels, and talking could stop soon and we get on the pitch. Thanks guys.